Queen Layla looked over the balcony of her palace at the city below. Valdoria had never known peace for long. The skies were often dark with clouds, and the winds carried the scent of conflict. Her people had been preparing for war for months, but the enemy was growing stronger with each passing day. Layla had studied every report from her scouts and generals. Their numbers were too many for her army to handle alone. The elves were skilled warriors, but even their magic and training could not match the combined forces that were moving toward the kingdom. Layla had spent countless nights thinking of every possible solution. Diplomacy had failed. Her advisors had argued endlessly over plans of attack. Every strategy seemed doomed before it even began. The kingdom needed hope, and it needed a solution that no one had considered. That was when she had heard of a human warrior named Jack Harper. He was not like other humans who visited Valdoria. He had fought wars on Earth, and his reputation spoke of skill and cunning that seemed almost unbelievable to the elves. His arrival was sudden and unexpected, but it gave Layla a small spark of hope. Perhaps he could help save the kingdom. Layla had agreed to marry him to secure peace. It was not an easy choice for her. The idea of marrying a human had seemed strange and uncomfortable at first. Humans were fragile and unpredictable in the eyes of her people. They lacked the refined abilities that elves possessed, and their ways were unfamiliar. Yet the enemy did not care about tradition or caution. Layla knew that she needed a solution that was powerful and decisive. Jack arrived in the palace courtyard in the early morning. His presence was calm and quiet. He did not display arrogance or fear. Instead, he studied his surroundings with sharp eyes and moved with careful steps. Layla watched him from the balcony, noting his posture and the way he observed everything around him. Selene, the elf warrior who had trained under Layla's father, approached her. She was silent for a moment before speaking. "The humans are unpredictable," she said. "You must be cautious." Layla nodded, understanding the warning. She had already felt the strangeness of having a human in her palace. His calmness did not make her feel safe. Instead, it made her curious and a little uneasy. The marriage ceremony was simple and swift. There was no grand celebration. Layla did not have the heart to pretend she felt joy. The people watched silently as the humans stood beside their queen. Jack bowed with respect but not subservience. Layla felt a mix of emotions. She was not in love with him. She was not sure what she felt at all. The union was meant for peace and survival. That was all. In the days that followed, Layla observed Jack closely. He spent time with her generals, studying maps and reports. His methods were different from anything the elves used. He made suggestions that seemed unconventional but effective. He moved with precision and thoughtfulness. Selene watched him as well, and her suspicion grew. How could a human understand battle strategies better than trained elves, who had fought for centuries? She did not answer her questions, but kept a watchful eye. The tension in the kingdom increased. Scouts reported more enemy movements, and the people grew fearful. Layla walked through the city, seeing the worry on their faces. Mothers held their children close, and merchants closed their shops earlier each day. The presence of Jack did not comfort them at first. They were not sure what to make of this human who had entered their lives. Layla called a meeting with her advisors and generals. "We need a plan that works," she said. "Jack Harper is here to help. Listen to him." Some of the generals grumbled at the idea of taking advice from a human. Layla's gaze was firm and commanding. "We have no other choice. If we fail, our kingdom will fall." Jack spoke then, calmly and without arrogance. He outlined his plan, breaking down the enemy's strengths and weaknesses. He suggested small tactical changes that could make a big difference. Layla listened carefully, feeling a sense of hope she had not felt in years. The next morning, she and Selene watched as Jack visited the outposts along the border. He moved quickly, observing the terrain and the soldiers stationed there. He spoke to the soldiers simply, giving instructions that they could understand easily. Layla noted how the soldiers responded to him. They were not afraid. They were alert and ready. The human had earned their respect without needing magic or words of command. In the evenings, Layla found herself thinking about him. She wondered how someone so different could be so capable. She wondered if there was more to humans than her people had understood. Selena noticed the change in her queen but did not comment. The tension in the palace continued as reports of enemy activity grew more frequent. Layla could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders. She could not afford mistakes. Every decision mattered. Jack Harper seemed calm despite the pressure. He did not rush. He did not panic. Layla realized that his confidence was not arrogance. It was experience and skill. She watched him and felt a mix of admiration and fear. The marriage was meant to bring peace, but now she wondered if it would bring something greater. The kingdom waited silently, not knowing what the human would do next. Layla knew that the first real test was coming soon, and she would have to watch closely as the fate of Valdoria rested in his hands. Days passed in Valdoria with uneasy calm. Queen Layla watched the horizon as enemy scouts moved closer. Jack Harper spent hours with generals, discussing strategies and training the soldiers. His methods were precise and practical. The elves had relied on magic and tradition, but Jack combined logic with observation. Layla saw the difference it made. Soldiers learned quickly under his guidance. Even young recruits who had never faced battle felt prepared when he spoke. Selene remained cautious but noticed the soldiers' morale rising. She could not deny that Jack had a gift for command and strategy. Layla walked through the city streets in the early morning. The people moved carefully, still anxious about the approaching enemy. She spoke with merchants and guards. They mentioned Jack's presence gave them hope. Layla felt a mix of relief and worry. Hope was fragile in Valdoria. At the palace, Jack spent time studying the maps and the movements of enemy forces. He observed patterns that the elves had missed. He marked areas where ambush could occur and points where reinforcements would be needed. Layla watched silently from the balcony. His calm focus impressed her. Selene joined Layla, whispering about the unusual skill of a human. They spoke quietly, wondering how one person could change the outcome of a war. Layla had no answer, but she felt a strange trust forming. Days turned into nights as preparations continued. Jack visited every outpost along the borders. He trained soldiers individually and in groups. He corrected mistakes quickly and praised efforts. Soldiers began to follow him without hesitation. Layla noted that their confidence grew each day. Even the enemy had not yet made a strong move. Jack seemed ready for any attack. Layla wondered what he was planning. She could see the intensity in his eyes and the precision of his movements. Selene watched from a distance, still suspicious but slowly learning to trust his instincts. One afternoon, scouts brought news that the enemy army was larger than expected. They moved faster and were closer to the capital. Layla felt a chill. The war was no longer a possibility. It was imminent. She gathered her advisors, generals, and Jack in the strategy room. The room was filled with maps, markers, and notes. Jack stood silently for a moment, studying the information. Then he spoke, outlining a plan that relied on careful positioning and precise timing. He instructed the soldiers to focus on weak points and conserve energy for critical moments. Layla listened, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope. She realized that the human had a vision that no elf had considered. Selene took notes silently, noting the effectiveness of his approach. Days before the battle, Jack inspected the city defenses. Layla accompanied him, walking through the walls, gates, and towers. He explained how each part could be used effectively. Soldiers moved efficiently as they followed his instructions. The queen watched, fascinated by his ability to organize and lead. At night, Layla walked alone in the palace gardens. She thought about the coming conflict. Fear and anticipation mixed in her mind. Jack Harper was not just a human. He was becoming the key to the kingdom's survival. Selene approached her quietly. "We will see his true skill soon," she said. Layla nodded, still uncertain but feeling a strange confidence. She wondered how the queen who had relied on magic for centuries could place faith in one human. The city prepared for the first clash. Jack had instructed everyone carefully. Soldiers were ready, weapons sharp, and positions secured. Layla watched the preparations with concern. She understood that the next day would change everything. At dawn, scouts reported movement in the distance. The enemy forces were approaching faster than expected. Layla called her generals to attention. Jack calmly moved among them, giving final instructions and reassuring the soldiers. The humans approached with discipline and clarity. Layla saw how the soldiers responded. Fear seemed to fade and determination grew. She realized that hope was spreading. The first battle was about to begin. The Queen, for the first time in weeks, felt a glimmer of relief. Jack Harper was ready, and so were the people under his guidance. The city held its breath as the human warrior prepared to face the enemy. Valdoria's fate rested on his skill and the courage he had inspired in her people. The morning sun rose over Valdoria with a soft glow that did little to calm the tension in the city. Queen Layla stood on the balcony, her eyes scanning the horizon. The enemy forces were visible now, thousands of soldiers moving like a dark wave across the land. The city held its breath as Jack Harper prepared to face them. He moved with calm precision among the soldiers, checking weapons, encouraging the guards, and explaining positions once more. Every movement was confident and deliberate. Layla watched, silently, noticing how the soldiers responded to him. Fear seemed to disappear from their faces and replaced with focus and determination. Selene stood near Layla, her arms crossed. She had watched warriors for centuries and felt certain that few could command such obedience and respect. Yet Jack did not shout or demand. He simply led with clarity and presence. The first clash began when the enemy approached the outer walls. Their forces were strong, and they moved quickly, expecting to overwhelm the city. But Jack had anticipated their strategies. He positioned his soldiers at key points where the enemy was likely to attack first. He moved along the walls, giving instructions quietly and clearly. Arrows flew through the sky, striking soldiers with precision. Valdoria's soldiers followed Jack's guidance, responding with swift and coordinated action. Layla felt her heart pound. She had never seen such skill and control in battle. Jack was not using magic or relying on luck. Every move was planned and executed with care. Selene watched the enemy falter as Jack anticipated their next steps. He moved down from the walls, engaging the enemy directly. He fought with skill and speed that amazed the elves. They had trained for years to fight well, but Jack moved with instinct and precision that no training could create alone. Soldiers who had doubted him began to believe in his abilities. Layla saw them gain confidence, striking with coordination and courage. The battle continued through the day. Jack led small groups to take critical points while instructing others to defend key areas. His understanding of strategy and human intuition combined with knowledge he had gained from observing the elves made him nearly unstoppable. The enemy began to fall back, confused by the coordination and speed of the defense. Layla watched, unable to tear her eyes away. She had expected magic and overwhelming power to protect her city. Instead, she saw a human using mind, skill, and courage to lead a defense that no one had thought possible. Selene moved through the city, checking soldiers and relaying instructions. She realized that Jack had taught the army more in a single day than they had learned in years. His presence was transformative. By evening, the enemy was forced to retreat. Valdoria's city gates remained secure, and the soldiers were filled with pride and relief. Layla descended to the city square, greeting soldiers and citizens alike. Her people were amazed and grateful. Jack Harper moved among them quietly, giving praise and instruction without seeking recognition. The Queen felt admiration and respect growing within her. She had married this human for peace, but she now saw that his skill went far beyond her expectations. Layla realized that she had underestimated what humans could achieve. Selene approached her quietly. "You have seen what he can do," she said. The Queen nodded, feeling both relief and awe. Jack's calm confidence and skill had saved the city and inspired her people. Layla knew that the coming battles would test him even further, but she felt hope for the first time in years. That night, the city celebrated cautiously. Soldiers shared stories of their encounters with Jack and how his guidance had made a difference. Layla walked among them, listening and smiling quietly, she saw a change in her people. They had learned to trust in something new, to believe in hope even in the face of overwhelming odds. Jack remained in the background, observing, guiding, and preparing for what was to come. Layla watched him, wondering what other surprises this human held. The queen understood that the peace she sought had become more than just a political arrangement. It was now a bond of trust and admiration. She realized that the future of Valdoria was tied not only to her decisions, but to the courage and skill of one human warrior. Days after the first battle, Valdoria remained on high alert. Queen Lilac through the palace halls, watching the soldiers prepare for the next attack. Jack Harper was already reviewing maps and speaking with generals. His calm focus and clear instructions inspired confidence in everyone around him. Layla could see that the city relied on him more than any magic or weapon. Selene moved beside her, noting how the humans seemed to understand the soldiers better than any elf ever could. The queen called Jack to her private chambers to learn more about him. She wanted to understand the source of his skill. Jack explained his past in simple words. He had trained for many years on Earth, facing challenges that tested his mind and body. He had learned to observe enemies carefully, to predict their moves and adapt quickly. He told Lila about his experience with different armies, strategies, and tactics. She listened closely, realizing that his knowledge combined with his instincts made him a force unlike any she had seen. Jack also mentioned an artifact he had found in Valdoria during his early days in the city. It was old and strange, but it enhanced his awareness and reaction. Layla could feel the weight of his honesty and knew he was telling the truth. Selene remained cautious but could not deny the results. Jack Harper was a human who had changed the course of war in her city. Layla spent time observing him in the training grounds. He worked with the soldiers individually, correcting mistakes, encouraging them, and showing how to move efficiently. Even those who had doubted him before now followed his instructions without hesitation. Layla realized that the human had not only skill, but also the ability to inspire and lead. The enemy had begun a new approach, sending smaller forces to probe the city defenses. Jack anticipated their moves, guiding the soldiers to counter every attack. Layla watched as he moved among them, calm and precise, analyzing the battlefield and making adjustments. The soldiers gained confidence and the enemy was confused by the coordination. Nights in the palace were quiet but filled with planning. Layla could hear Jack discussing strategy late into the night with Selene and the generals. He never seemed tired. His focus was unwavering and his mind moved quickly to solve problems. Layla realized that the peace she had sought by marrying him was only the beginning. Jack had become a key to understanding strength and strategy in ways she had never known. The queen began to reflect on her own abilities. She had relied on tradition and magic for so long, but now she saw that courage, skill, and intelligence could be just as powerful. Layla felt admiration for Jack grow every day. He had not only saved her city once, but had shown how humans could rise to challenges beyond imagination. One morning, scouts reported that a larger force was advancing. The enemy had learned from previous encounters and was testing the city with greater numbers. Jack moved swiftly, organizing defenses, positioning soldiers, and preparing the city for battle. Layla stood on the balcony, watching him and feeling a mixture of awe and concern. Selene joined her silently. "The human has learned their moves and predicted their strategy," she said. Layla nodded, realizing that Jack had become indispensable. The queen understood that she had made the right choice, marrying him for peace, but she also saw that he was more than a human soldier. He was a strategist, a leader, and an inspiration. When the enemy attacked, Jack led with precision. He moved through the battlefield with skill and foresight, guiding the soldiers, predicting enemy actions and striking at critical points. Layla watched as his decisions turned the tide of battle. Soldiers followed his instructions without hesitation, and the enemy struggled to adjust. By the end of the day, Valdoria stood firm. The city had survived again, and the soldiers celebrated quietly. Layla walked among them, feeling pride and relief. She understood that Jack Harper had not only changed the outcome of battles, but also the hearts of her people. The queen realized that humans were capable of more than she had ever imagined. Jack's calm, intelligence, and courage had proven that strength could come in forms beyond magic or tradition. Selene nodded beside her, silently acknowledging the human skill and leadership. Layla felt a deep respect and admiration for the one she had married for peace. He had become the symbol of hope and the key to Valdoria's survival. The queen knew that the coming days would be filled with challenges, but with Jack Harper by her side, she felt a new sense of confidence and belief in the future. The day of the final battle arrived with clear skies over Valdoria. Queen Layla stood on the palace balcony, watching the enemy forces gather on the horizon. Jack Harper moved among the soldiers, calm and focused as always. Every soldier under his command had learned from him. Every movement was precise, and every strategy had been carefully considered. Layla felt a mixture of pride and anxiety. The fate of her kingdom rested in his hands, and she trusted him completely. Selena stood beside her, arms crossed, observing quietly. The human had transformed the army. They were confident and skilled now, ready for whatever the enemy could bring. Layla remembered the day she had married Jack for peace. She had not known then how much he would change the kingdom and the people around him. Jack signaled the soldiers and moved forward. The enemy advanced with a force that seemed overwhelming, but Jack anticipated their every move. His eyes scanned the battlefield and his mind calculated the best responses. Soldiers moved swiftly, following his commands without hesitation. Layla watched as Jack led small groups to critical positions. He fought with skill and intelligence, striking only when necessary and using strategy to weaken the enemy. The soldiers he trained moved with coordination and confidence, surprising the attackers at every turn. The battle raged through the morning and into the afternoon. Jack did not tire. He guided, fought, and inspired at the same time. Layla felt awe as she watched him. His actions were precise and effective. Each decision he made saved lives and protected the city. Selene moved among the soldiers, ensuring the plans were followed. Even she was amazed at the human's ability to lead and command. The enemy began to falter. Their confidence crumbled as Jack anticipated their every move. Valdoria's soldiers pressed forward with renewed courage, striking in unison with the strategies Jack had taught them. The queen realized that her people had grown stronger because of him. Their trust in a human warrior had transformed into trust in themselves. By evening, the enemy was in full retreat. Valdoria had survived the greatest attack it had ever faced. Soldiers cheered, citizens came out of hiding, and the city celebrated quietly. Layla walked through the streets, seeing her people smiling and relieved. Jack moved among the soldiers, offering guidance, support, and praise. There was no boast in his actions, only calm strength. Layla felt admiration and respect for him grow. He had not only protected the kingdom, but had also inspired her people to believe in themselves. Selene nodded beside her, silently acknowledging the human's achievements. Layla realized that Jack Harper was more than a warrior. He was a symbol of hope, courage, and intelligence. The peace she had sought through marriage had brought far more than security. It had brought a leader who could change the course of history. That night, the city was alive with quiet celebration. Layla spoke with soldiers, citizens, and advisors. Everyone praised Jack Harper for his skill and bravery. The queen walked to him and spoke quietly. "You have saved our city and inspired our people," she said. Jack smiled calmly. "I only did what was needed," he replied. Layla felt a deep respect and admiration. She knew that the future of Valdoria was bright with him by her side. Days passed, and the city began to recover. Jack continued to train soldiers, organize defenses, and plan for the future. Layla watched him, understanding that the human she had married had become the heart of her kingdom's strength. Selene worked alongside him, her caution replaced by trust. Valdoria had changed, and its people had changed. The queen realized that her decision to marry a human for peace had been the right one, but the outcome was far greater than she had ever imagined. Jack Harper had proven that courage, intelligence, and skill could surpass magic, tradition, and even fear. Layla looked at him standing among the soldiers, calm and determined. She knew that as long as he remained with her people, Valdoria would remain strong and safe. The kingdom had survived because of him, and the queen understood that humans could achieve greatness beyond expectation. Jack Harper was more than a warrior. He was the symbol of hope, the guide of her people, and the guardian of the future. The queen smiled quietly, knowing that her kingdom was safe, her people inspired, and that the human she had married for peace had become the force that could face any challenge and emerge victorious.